No touchy. You like it? You want to eat it? No.
Okay, testing. Let me see. Is this audio working?
Legoland.
Okay, all right. So we're going to be analyzing a deal today in Birmingham, Alabama, 35215. And the whole point, and what we're doing today is we're going to be looking at all right, camera's not working. That's okay. We'll keep going. So today we got 35215-754 Gable Drive at Center Point. And the whole reason why we're looking at Center Point today is we just had a podcast recording with Daisy, and I'll probably be releasing that podcast in about a couple of weeks from now. And Center Point is one of the areas where, along with Queentown and Bessemer and Fairfield, just an area where a lot of families like to be at. They're around a lot of areas, and it's a little bit more quiet. Now, in Center Point, if you ever want to do a BRRRR, right? So what does a BRRRR stand for? It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Now, the whole point of that strategy is for it to be scalable. Now, the reason why it's scalable is, let's say you're able to buy a property for 40 grand and you are able to renovate the property for $30,000. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on getting your ARV or your after repair value correct. Because if you're able to get your accurate ARV, now you can understand how much money you're able to pull back out in your form of loan proceeds. So if you buy a home for 40 grand and you renovate it for 30 grand, but you're able to make it worth $100,000 afterwards, well, now all of a sudden you can go get a DSCR loan, get back out all $70,000 in the form of loan proceeds, and now you're able to use the same $70,000 you invested and recycle it and reuse it and buy another property. And that's what allowed that strategy to be really scalable, right? Because you don't have to raise another money. You don't have to put 20% down on a deal and then you save up, or you work really hard and save up for 20% again on another deal. That's hard, frankly, to be honest with you. But along with that strategy, it seems great, but there's going to be a lot of execution risk, right? And what is execution risk? It's when you're depending on your contractor, especially if you're doing a heavy rehab, to show up on time and do what they say they're going to do. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of risk in that, right? 0.35 acres. But first and foremost, the number one thing that's within your control, even though it's an art, not a science, is for you to figure out what your ARV is going to be. All right. So for you to get your ARV correct, you got to take down a bunch of different items that allows you to figure out, hey, what is this property comparable to? So if I take $1 per square foot, if I take the listed price of $244,900 divided by the square footage, then this property is being listed for $116 a square foot. And this was listed 7 days ago. So I'm going to put the 11/3/2024. And the reason I'm taking down listed properties now is because I already got a whole list of essentially all these properties that were sold. But now I'm trying to keep track of all the properties that are coming onto the market, because that's my best way of staying on top of the market. This is closest to Arrowhead. So I'll always like to write down the neighborhood that these properties are coming online in, so that if I see another property coming online in the area of this Arrowhead, that I know that that's probably a better comp, right? And the reason I'm writing down these communities and these little subsections is really just because I want to be able to quickly reference what the ARV or what a comparable property is, right? Obviously, as you look for a comparable property, what's the best property, right? Probably this one that's next by. You ideally want a property that has similar square footage, similar bed bath count, similar year build, similar acreage for the lot size, et cetera, et cetera. But as you go further and further away from those characteristics, and as you get farther and farther away, let's say you're crossing a big main street, now you're on the other side of town, let's say crossing natural barriers such as a water or a creek or a river, I mean, that starts putting you into different neighborhoods. So that's what makes comping, specifically determining the ARV, so hard, right? That's why I'm telling you it's an art, not a science. But doesn't mean that you can't do your best, especially if you ever have the challenge in appraisal. So this property, I mean, this property looks really nice. I mean, there's some carpet, but you could argue that's probably nice carpet. This is the living room, and every other room, I mean, you could say you can paint the place, but there's really not much in terms of renovation that needs to take place on this property. So now that I got my ARV up here, I'm going to write some notes on nice kitchen, nicely painted, some carpeting in living room, but appears to be nicely done, and good bathrooms. Right, I didn't see anything special with the bathrooms. Well, there's your bathrooms. Okay, bathroom. Okay, bathroom. Just not modern. I'm talking about the modern. Like, usually you see like this gray type of finish and stuff like that. Okay, so now that I got these deals in here and I got my list, I mean, I can just analyze the deal really quick with all of you side by side and show you why this is not going to be a cash flowing deal. So at 244,900, 244,900. Whoops. I'm going to leave the renovation as is. I don't need to really paint the place because it looks really well done. I got 3 toilets that I'll turn into, for 2.5 bathrooms. I got 3 toilets that I'll put in a high pressure flush toilet. I got $5 for some landscaping. I got $1,500 for the roof repairs, just in case there's any patching I need to do for the home. That gives me a rehab of roughly $4,000. So very, very, very minor, cosmetic if anything. Now, for me to go get the market rent, I'm gonna go to affordablehousing.com. I'm going to the owner section in the market rent estimator. I'm gonna plug in the address and the bedroom count of 4. Now you're gonna see that the average rent here on affordablehousing.com for 25 units within a 1.59 mile radius is $1,566. Okay. $1,566. 1,566. Now that I got that property in there, okay, what are my property taxes? Property taxes, I'm gonna scroll down here to the payment calculator. There's $9. Again, you should always double check and confirm with the county assessor record determining so. And for home insurance, I'm gonna multiply by 1.2 since I'm adding a 20% premium. I'm assuming this $190 here is really just related to a primary residence home. Obviously, get a quote from a insurance company and make sure that you're able to find out. You guys need a free quote. I got a link to Steadily. You guys can just kind of click on that and get a free quote. Sometimes their quotes are cheaper than other places, and I really would appreciate that if you use our referral link so that we get a little bit of commission, but you don't need to buy a policy at all. All right, so now I got 10% for my maintenance. So this is money I'm setting aside every single month for property maintenance, but also for your big repairs, because I just got a big repair, right? $15,000 roof repair on our home in Scottsdale. And if I didn't set aside $151 for 100 months, then essentially I would have overestimated my profitability because I didn't set aside $150 every single month for 100 months, and I got $15,000 on a bill. So I might have thought I was making an extra $150 every single month, but that is not the case. That is not true, because that money doesn't belong to you. So don't be that person. Make sure you underwrite with your maintenance and don't think you're getting a much better deal, okay, when you're not. 10% for property management, 5% for vacancy. So there's always going to be a month that's going to be empty. So now that I got these properties in here, I'm going to go to 25% down. I'm going to calculate my payment. So for 25% down, I'm going to do equals B4 times my down payment percentage of 25% in F19. So I'll be putting down $61,000 down on this property. I got 2.5% closing costs, $4,000 for repair. For my financing amount, I'm going to do equals to my B4, which is my listing price, minus my down payment in E19. So I'll be financing $183,000 on this deal. Now, I'm going to bump the interest rate up to 7.25% because that's probably much more realistic to where it is today. And that's going to give me a negative cash flow of $396, assuming, right, I can rent this property out for 1570. What was my number? 1566. Right? If I rent this property for 1566, I can cash flow negative 396 a month. That's a loss. To be super clear, it's a negative 6.7% return, assuming you buy this property for 244,900 with a rehab about $4,000. Now, let's say I'm able to reduce my asking price. So, what would make this a deal, quote unquote? Well, if I'm targeting a 10% return, then technically I could afford $111,000 for this home, assuming same condition, same amount of rent I'm able to get, but now I'm cash flowing $289 positive, and that's a 10% return, assuming my rehab stays at $4,000, right? That's it. That's all I want you to do. I just want you to put in the reps, understand how do you adjust the levers that teaches you how to determine whether or not something is a deal, quote unquote. Right? I'm not saying 10% is the magic number that everybody needs to shoot for. I'm simply saying you need to know what your target return is and what your strategy is. Because for some other folks, they might say, I'm okay with just breaking even on cash flow, 0% cash on cash return. Because if I think I'm making a 5% on appreciation on $1 million property like California, well, I'm making $50,000 every single year. Who cares if I make extra $100 in cash flow a month, right? That's the rationale, and it's a very different strategy. And that's why you have to understand what your strategy is. What does your portfolio look like today? What are your goals? And really talk to your own investment professionals, right? That's why I'm saying this is not investment advice. No one else can understand what you're looking for. And frankly, if you're betting on appreciation, it's very speculative, very risky because you don't know where interest rates are. So let's say interest rates go down by 1.25%. If you lower your interest rate here in K7, now all of a sudden, if you bought that property for $111,000, now your cash and cash return goes up by 2.4%, just simply with a drop in interest rate. So now your willingness to pay might go up to $120,000, right? Very different. You just went from, assuming everything else stayed constant, right? Now you're going to cash for $317 a month. You're still making about 10% return, but now you're able or willing to pay $120,000 for this deal simply because, again, everything else stayed constant, but because the interest rates dropped from 7.25% to 6%. And that's a relationship you want to understand and apply towards your deal and your project, because this is going to ultimately drive what your willingness to pay is. So be very careful, be very mindful of it. And what we're going to do is, if you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, you guys can go to affordablehousing.io, not .com, go to affordablehousing.io. You can go click on the Get Deal Analysis tool. Whoops, I forgot to turn on chat like I did. And from that point onwards, you can put in your name, email, your phone number. And that's the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. Now, I didn't make these spreadsheets from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I modified, tweaked it. And this is how I analyze deals a lot faster. My goal is that you copy my homework. You put it the same, you analyze the same deal, right? This property's on the market. Can't make this up. Put it on your, you can copy the same spreadsheet on your own spreadsheet, but put it on your own YouTube channel. Like, show to yourself that you know what you're doing, that when the next time, when the deal comes across the table and slaps you across the face, you will know what you're doing simply because you've been putting in the reps. And if someone ever asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? Well, you can say, I know it's a deal because I've been looking at deals for the past 407 days. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. I hope you all have an amazing Sunday. I'm going to be spending time with my family and friends today because that's what life is all about. So I hope you guys are able to spend some quality time with your family and friends today. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 408. Sorry, my camera's not working today, but I'll be back here again tomorrow. We're going to stay consistent no matter what. Have a good one, everybody.